Heya. For those of you girls, which are my regular viewers, this is not going to be a regular video. This video is a content creator appreciation post. Um, I am still sick, so apologies in case it sounds a little bit off at times. I do know I can make this recording though, because I already did it once. Unfortunately, the recording that was 40 minutes, over 40 minutes long, I wasn't able to see how long it was, got fucking auto-deleted. And while I'm sure many content creators can relate with that type of fucking pain, that's not the purpose of this audio. Um, on the other side of things, you may be wondering why I started making this, audio in the first place. And that's because of one goddamn fucking stupid sapphic baby gay called Ray. I hope I'm saying that name right. Um, this goddamn fucking stupid woman, uh, basically jumped onto a post where I was comforting a different person. We're saying like, oh yeah, I totally understand, like, the anxiety and the fear and like the everything what the fuck of like somebody else, that you look up to or other content creators. More just looking at your content and like you going like, what the fuck is going on? I had that too. And then the lady of the hour, right? The lady I was talking about, since some mutual acquaintance, they liked the post. I'm like, oh, speaking of, this is the person. And then this goddamn stupid bitch, which can't take a goddamn compliment to save her goddamn life, went over and said like, I know you reacted that way, but I don't understand why. You know? Like, I'm nothing special. I'm just a hag, 100%. And my reaction was, bitch, what? Um, and I threatened her, and you may be able to see in DMs if I'm not too lazy, um, that if she went over and, you know, kept acting that way without accepting goddamn praise, because yeah, there was a reason I was goddamn reacting the way I was, then, I would make a goddamn creator appreciation post and specifically call her out. And her being a fucking brat, from what I remember, more just went, oh, you're gonna make more content for us? Oh, you're keeping us well fed. Kiss emoji. Mm. And I don't make out of threatens women. Also, I did double check with her in advance and one other person that's going to be in this audio. If it was fine for me to directly reference them in screenshots and things, and they gave me the go ahead. So thank you both. And as a thank you, other than just the playful jabs, I highly suggest any sapphic people to listen to Rhea, because she sounds amazing. The best way I could describe her voice would be take like the fluffiest pillows and puppies, mix those together into a voice, and that's how she sounds. It's so adorable and cuddly, just her fucking voice. Uh, she's still a fucking stupid sapphic bitch though, and that's the reason why this video exists, because I haven't only seen this type of behavior in her. I've seen it in a lot of creators that downplay just how amazing they are. And I'm like, bitch, what the fuck? So I'm mostly going to be going over some stupid ones that a lot of creators in a few different fields go over and say. There's a lot of overlap because, well, they're all creators, but I am going to be more addressing them. However, before I do that, I need to talk about people which I don't consider creators, because there's one group which I heavily exclude from that. And those are people which have to hurt other people for their quote unquote art. Um, I normally consider voice work and, script writing as art. We are artists. Maybe that comes off as a little condescending, but like it takes a lot of skill and a lot of effort and a lot of heart to put into these creations of ours. Somebody who goes over and has to punch down or hit somebody else, whether they're being obnoxious about it or whether they just want to feel horny, as is the norm in a lot of these ones, or superior, I don't see that person as an artist. In the same vein that I'm pretty sure most of us, if we heard that somebody was using mostly normal paint for a drawing, but for the reds, they made sure somebody was bleeding, and that's how they got all their reds. Well, one, um, inherently, just the harm that caused the, drawing to be less good. However, not even from talking from a moral standpoint, one, the fact that blood doesn't really dry as well as normal paint would means that the normal art piece there is already going to have a lesser quality red compared to everything else that's maybe amazing about that art piece. And two, blood seeps into other colors, and it would ruin other aspects of, well, those different colors of paint. And because of the fact that blood and paint don't mix that well, it will ruin those aspects of paint as well, anything that's connected to that red. A similar concept more works with scripts and voice acting. I can more directly reference here on YouTube, because it's been a few minutes now, on GWA, that one terrible, terrible, terrible fucking OC script that was not even understanding how the fuck you're supposed to write a script that's supposed to be filled. The one which, nature's lube, I gotta get the line right because it's so goddamn stupid. We can use nature's lube. Sweat. The fuck is wrong with you? Are you an alien? Are you trying to just like corrupt the human race or some shit? Because that's not how people talk. And like the way the structuring was more done and everything else about that script, just even excluding the terrible, terrible fucking like aspect that it more had as a central theme. Everything else about that script was just goddamn awful, so bad that I laughed. I made an entire thread on my Twitter more just tearing into that script because it was so goddamn awful. Um, I couldn't believe a human had written it. I thought it was actually AI, but no, it was a human being that wrote it. How? I don't understand, but that happened. Okay. But people like that, I don't consider artists. And very much just from that as a case example, so many other aspects because the person wanted to be so horny were not well looked into, or anything else that just didn't make sense. And you have to, there's a certain level of suspension of disbelief that you can have with a script. But that only goes so far before an audio is no longer enjoyable or a script is no longer enjoyable, and they pass that by a country mile. So if you are making a script that inherently has to harm other people, not only is that script going to be of lesser quality, because, hey, you have to deny reality or hurt certain aspects of reality that aren't true for that script to exist, but two, that script's not going to hold up that well. And you're going to ruin a lot of otherwise interesting or intriguing parts of that script. Now, that script was fundamentally fucked, but other scripts have, aspects that can be like that. And with all of that out of the way, I'm going to start talking about actual creators. And for those of you who put in your whole heart into wanting to create something, into your little pieces of art, those little expressions of ourselves put out for the public, you're very brave and you're so strong. That's a big first step. And regardless if you're a voice actor or a scriptwriter or both, that's a hard thing to do. And the fact that you did it is amazing and worthy of praise 1,000-fold. You deserve to be proud of yourself, even if your work isn't well recognized or you don't think it's that good, that you took that big first step. And you should be proud of yourself, regardless of anything else in that script. And regardless of anything else in here, I hope you remember that. I'm going to be more talking about, other more stupid examples that I know of people more, talking down about themselves in different fields and groups. But just taking that first step is a big deal. And you deserve to know that if you take nothing else from this. Now, with that out of the way, I'm going to be talking about 5 groups. The first group is going to be writers, where I'm going to be more bringing up the other person, which I got references from. And the second group is going to be voice actors, because there are voice actors that can be dumb as well, though they're less public generally about it. Um, Third group that we're more going to be talking about are people who make dark content. The fourth are going to be people who make more normal content. The, you know, basic, more wholesome stuff that you more see. Generally, these people are female for anyone or male for anyone. You know, the vanilla type of option that we're more going to be talking about. The last bit's going to be a lot more personal for me because, well, there are other creators that make exotic things. And, well, I myself am also a creator that makes exotic stuff, so I want to give some more personal advice towards those type of people. I'm going to be more throwing in personal advice and viewpoints through all of it, but, if you want to leave at that section, I'm totally fine with that. But let's start off with the first group of dumb wombats, writers. Now, writers have one very serious complaint, which I totally agree with. Writers are super unappreciated. Like, a lot of people go over and praise the VAs, and rightfully so. But few people go over and directly praise script writers, and I don't agree with that, honestly. If somebody has a different script writer than the VA, you know, the VA wouldn't have been able to create the story without the writer. That seems really dumb not to praise both of them, and I don't agree with it at all. However, based on this fact, certain writers spiral into some really dumb opinions. So we're going to be more focusing on those dumb opinions. First off, you have writers that go over and say that their work pieces are worthless due to the fact that they, don't get praised. We're going to be going back to that whole, they are worthless quite a few times with writers because you goddamn fucking Shakespearean dweebs are all fucking depresso as fuck about your own work. God fucking damn it. But those who look towards their own work and hold a certain type of almost disdain, I've seen certain people which the way that they talk about their work, it more sounds like, well, yeah, I got VAs who filled my scripts, but they could have filled any other script and they'd be as successful. Hell, they'd be even more successful if they chose a better script. I'm holding them back, honestly, if anything else. And just, they'd be better off if I wasn't making scripts. And bish? And bastards? Like, no. There's a lot of aspects on script writing, which I'm going to be getting into. This is going to be a long video. I can already tell. But first off, a VA chose your script because they found it personally enthralling or entertaining. You don't get to disrespect your own script just because you made it. Other people looked towards your creation and decided, hey, this is pretty neat. I want to work on it. I want to appreciate it. I want to see this script flourish. And that's outside of your control. That's, outside of your opinion on your own work. You created something at the very least that somebody found, well, worth the effort to make a fucking audio about. Give yourself some credit if you're one of those types. The other side of things, you may think that in case that you write scripts and you see other people, quote unquote, writing better scripts, that's, well, one, either bad, or two, that your scripts are therefore worthless. One, script writing is a process. You get better as time goes on. A lot of script writers that you may think are, quote unquote, better than you are probably just more experienced, or two, more in tune with their own niche. Or three, that niche that you're going into, they're a lot more just experienced in that niche and know their own style a lot better than you do. Somebody else being better than you in your own view in a script concept doesn't mean that you should stop. It means that you can be inspired by their work. Writing is always a collaborative effort. And, well, I want to give an example of that. Other people may think that, you know, if you write something down as a script idea or something that you aren't really going to fully work on, and, well, the idea either gets dropped or it doesn't get picked up in a VI fill, a script fill, uh, um, therefore, that idea is worthless. Again, you fucking dweebs. Not everything is worthless. To give one very silly example of how that isn't the case, I want to more talk about me and this other creator called Faye. Now, I have followed Faye for a while, and I do not understand how a person feral all the time and still exist. I don't get them at all. How they exist and they're alive when they're always horny. I don't get it at all, but like they do. They're there. Also, just little reference thing. Faye is a they them, so don't be fucking stupid or some shit, eh? But this fucking person was making another fucking horny post, and this is during my sickness, saw the post, and you can see it more here, and I got kind of inspired, and I'm going to lead you through it because it's super weird. They wrote down an idea of them being tied up by a werewolf. And for me, that kind of resonated a bit because I'm like, oh, I haven't made anything with a werewolf before, have I? Huh, that'd be an interesting script idea to more work off of. Huh, but what do I want to use as a type of werewolf thing? Well, being tied down seems kind of nice, but, huh. Oh, wait, sacrifice. That's what's going on there, huh. That's like a nice idea to build off of, but I think actually the werewolf should be the one tied down. Yeah, that works a lot better. Because then it's like sending the sacrifice towards the werewolves. That way the binds stay in play or some other religious bullshit you can more do with that. Okay, yeah, that fits a lot better in my type of idea. Especially for safer work scripts. But what else can I add here? Like I need to have a theme or a conflict of some sort. Well, oh, one other type of theme that I've been more recently listening to is Violently Sapphic's Trans Femme series, where there's also a similar type of premise to that, right? Where, like, at the first part of it, somebody gets sent towards the speaker because, like, oh, they're dangerous and they're going to kill the outcast, the one that we don't like. Huh. Oh, outcast, that's what I can more call that series. That seems nice. But anyway, by working through that, what can I do? I can do that, but I don't want to directly copy the home. Oh, wait, I can make it dangerous. Yeah, I can actually make the person be like an actual danger. But I also want to make it sound sweet because I like sweet voices, especially for an audio like this. Werewolf. Yeah, because it's a werewolf. I can have two different voices actually. I can make it so that way. The danger voice is like them becoming a werewolf or anything else like that, and then sounding sweet is more like them being normal. Oh, I can even do some trickery there where like the wolf was trying to trick them or something, like some big bad wolf thing. Oh, that seems neat. But I need a conflict more to like go out from this. Huh. Oh, you know, it it was so easy for my other series to more have conflict with just the trans. Hmm. Under a trans context from a trans femme, suddenly becoming a big, hairy creature out of things outside of your control? Hmm, that's a theme there. After all, nobody really writes werewolves like that, but if you're a trans girl and you're more femme presenting, then suddenly, without your control, being changed to some big, strong monster that's, hairy all over, that would definitely be somewhat traumatizing, wouldn't it be? Hmm. Well, there, I have a conflict and I have a reason for why that other half of her is evil. But I need like a central theme because I need to eventually resolve that conflict, right? Well, oh, wait, because the werewolf thing's already so weird, I can also do another type of weird trans story type of thing. Yeah. I could make it so that way, the trans character has to accept her old aspects of herself, which are, this visual masculinity inside being a werewolf. Yeah. I can even add a message because it's important to accept your old parts and not completely reject them. And that's why she merges with her beast self. That's especially good because she got tied up, right? And this is definitely not the first sacrifice. So, I can add in the message of if she had accepted herself immediately instead of rejecting all aspects of her old masculinity, then, she wouldn't have had to murder anyone if she was willing to not be a dainty little princess and was willing to more, take in her ability to fight and her willingness to fight and not just see that as a masculine urge. Well, she wouldn't be in this predicament at all. Plus, it gives her motivation because she has to regain that to save the listener because she actually cares about them. Yeah, that's a neat type of storyline. And need I remind you, this all went over in like my head in like 5 minutes. And that was prompted by, again, Faye's horny post, and me mixing in ideas starting from there, including Violent Sapphic series, and a few other, details things as I just more listed out. One thing a lot of writers forget, as I said earlier, writing is generally a collaborative process, and that's even without, your collaborators knowing. Um, As you can more run through, just through my stream of consciousness, a lot more ideas you can probably trace who kind of gave them me other than the two obvious ones. And, well, due to that, I have a series that I'm planning on recording now. Even though it's radically different than, the writing prompt. After all, who even got tied down was shifted, right? It also got shifted more because they, being the feral person they are, um, would definitely more write that as a non-safe for work script. But for me, I've changed it into a safe for work one. Even with all those radical changes, well, I was directly inspired by, well, their words. Hell, I wouldn't even think to write them down more, just general process, if I wasn't already in the process at that time, trying to think out the creator appreciation post. We do it in the smallest ways that we don't even consciously think of. And your scripts, your ideas, even if they're not filled out by someone, can inspire another writer that more reads it. Whether it's opening up new ideas or, well, creating something very strange, like I'm planning to. No idea is completely worthless, because it can inspire other ideas that you may like from other creators. So that's one of the reasons why I get more annoyed, I guess you could say, when other people more say that their work is worthless, because it is rarely the case that it actually is. And I am listing writers, being more of a collaborative process, but, well, there's also voice actors to consider. A lot of voice actors in the space, getting into vocal fills and such, do you think that they just appear out of nowhere? I know they get the most attention, but we rarely seem to talk about why they get into voice acting. Now, for me, myself, I just did it because I found it fun, uh, and deep personal reasons, but a lot of people get into voice acting because of something most would consider silly. Or one of the big driving forces can be seeing a script that isn't filled and they think is amazing, but it's not filled out. And even after multiple weeks, nobody has filled out that individual script. And well, after seeing that, they may feel a tad bit pushed towards, well, hey, If nobody's gonna do it, they probably wouldn't take offense if I did it myself, right? And that's how people get started. Now, of course, you may not hear that. You may not, you know, see it directly. But any script that doesn't get picked up may be a reason in the future for somebody to start doing voice acting. And that's pretty important, I would say. Again, I stand by fully that writers are super unappreciated, but voice actors are important too. And every voice actor that comes in towards the space is nice. The same way that we have, well, writers. So if you feel down about your work, not having somebody yet, you never know what could happen in the future. So please, you goddamn fucking Shakespeare wannabes, stop being fucking emo as shit, please. I'm gonna be leaving writers off for now there until we talk about like content creation and specifics. And I'm gonna be talking about the other fucking dumb wombats, fucking voice actors. Yeah, I see you. I see you fucking dumbasses. And there's a lot of things that are similar in the type of dumbassery that voice actors do. However, one big one that I see, which is stupid as fuck, is voice actors feeling bad for doing voice fills. And you may be wondering, like, hey, how does that make sense? What does that mean? And I will explain. These fucking dumbasses feel bad about the fact that they are voice filling scripts because of the fact that they aren't adding anything original towards it in their own eyes. Yes, they're that dumb. Yes, they exist. I'm not making it up. So for those who are in that type, one, every voice is fundamentally unique. To list out the examples that I more talked about earlier, Rhea, to give a more succinct description of her voice, she sounds like the peppy college kid that's a little bit over her head. That's the protagonist of, like, you know, a Yuri anime or something. Like, you know the type. Faye has two different voices. Their normal voice and also their recording voice. The first voice, their normal one, sounds literally like a college professor. That's like the first thought I had in my head when I heard them. The second one sounds like a danger witch that's going to like drag you away if you break a deal implicitly or explicitly. Like the type of that will like drag you away for trying to use a love potion on a lesbian if you're a dude. And then you hear the screams for like thousands of miles or something. That was the type of impression in their voice. Danger, but enticing. Um, and I'm pretty sure, just based on these descriptions, people can more see the differences, quote unquote, in these type of voices. And I highly suggest that you check these two people out. They sound amazing. But without promoting the two people which are, you know, letting me use them in this fucking audio, if you more had just off those ideas, a basic script, like say, femdom bully type script, or just like dominant bully script, you know. For me, it's gonna be more femdom because of me approximating the voices as best as I can. Again, check them out; they sound amazing. Um, but the Ray's voice would more sound fake peppy. It would, you know, a voice like that on a bully character. Well, they sound nice, they sound sweet, but well, with that exact same voice, they're tormenting you. And it makes that character now sound a lot more fake, right? The college professor one, again, I can't do Faye's voice anywhere near perfect. But just thinking of them doing that type of voicing would be teasing. But just based on how they would do that type of voice, you could more tell, the bully does enjoy bullying them, but maybe also enjoys the bullying target a little, based on just how they speak. You'd get that impression. And the witch one, you would start thinking that the bully is a total sadist. And each one of them will give a different impression. Again, I'm going to try and approximate it, so that way people who are too lazy, I totally get it, to check up their voices will get a vague idea of it. Hmm, doesn't my little nerd know who they belong to? Hmm? Doesn't my little nerd know who they belong to? Doesn't my little nerd know who they belong to? Hmm? Each one of those is saying the exact same words from a line of a script, for instance. But, well, I can't double check it right now, but they should sound very different. And the type of impression you have of the character is different, right? Everyone's voice is unique, which means the impression that you're going to get from these different voices are going to be suddenly different. You doing the same fill as 1,000 different people will have an actual different result in what people think of that audio. So, towards my fellow voice actors, don't look down on your own voice. It's quite a powerful tool. On the other hand, if you are doing a basic voice fill, we already talked a little bit about how, you know, writers are able to inspire voice actors. But the same goes in reverse. Not necessarily inspire, I haven't heard anything like that before. But you creating the fill out of somebody else's script is telling that person, even if you don't think you do a very high quality job, that their script is worth the effort to make a recording of it. That's a pretty big deal and a very high compliment. And with that high compliment, that somebody appreciates their work that much to make a recording of it, well, they're going to feel motivated to keep writing more scripts. It's part of the ecosystem of making content. Both writers and voice actors support each other in, well, making more things. And that's something a lot of people forget, and I think it's important to remind people of that. On the other side of things, we have the same issue on style. A lot of the time, voice actors can feel not like they have their own identity, just the identity of whatever script that happens to catch their interest. And I'll say that whatever script does catch your interest is part of your identity. You naturally gravitate towards scripts that you like, and that's part of your identity. The second part is that, again, the way you will voice those scripts is different than everyone else. If you have any difficulty understanding who you are, well, figure out what you do differently in those scripts. What do you emphasize on? What do you like to focus on in those scripts? And you'll find it. Who you are at your core. And once again, you'll take another big step in finding your own voice in this space. Even if that voice is quote unquote basic, which we're going to get into later, it's still fundamentally yours. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about, voice actors that feel really bad on deviating a lot from the script. And the thing is, you just talk towards the scriptwriter for that. Let them know, like, hey, I am inspired by this thing, but I did improv a lot of it. I use it more as a springboard for me, doing my own thing. And that's totally fine. What I would more say is, hey, give credit. Like, I was inspired by this script. And this is the reason why I use as my source or inspiration for my own living script. It's incredibly unlikely that a lot of writers will be pissed by that knowledge. After all, you're still crediting them, and that's a lot better than a lot of other people do. Anyway, I think we've talked enough about both major group of dumbasses, so we're going to start talking about some subsections. First off, we're going to be talking about some unique struggles that I can understand people who make dark content struggle with. And I'm going to be doing 2 tiers of this. The first one is those who make, tragedies and things of the sort. The second one is people who make things that are a lot more extreme. They'll do to YouTube, I would be more, focusing on something that's extreme, but less bad. Because again, this is YouTube, so I do have some limitations on what I can talk about. But for the first one, you may feel inadequate or not really happy on the fact that the only way that you can make content that other people want to enjoy, or the main focus of your own content, is things that make people cry. Knowing that your content is bringing misery to others can be a really high burden to go through. However, and I will talk from personal experience on this one as well, I think it's important to recognize why people enjoy content of that sort. Now, as somebody who can also write very good angst from what I'm told, most of us, which are able to be quite skilled in this subsection, there's a reason for it. And that's because, well, our own lives haven't been so pretty, which makes it easier to more write these type of angst or tragedies or pain, because we know what it's like to be there. The same thing in voice acting, the subtle nuances of pain in your voice, the ways of heartbreak, the ways to sound just how utterly devastated or cruel you're being. We either learn that from ourselves or from other people. And I'm sure many of us can remember one of the first things that we lost in our darker days. And that was our ability to cry. And what we're able to do through creating darker content, and whether it's a tragedy of long-lost lovers, whether it's a sadness of a character death, whether it's a story not ending in the saddest way, but not ending quite right, we're able to then provide, through that, a type of catharsis. Because the world isn't kind. The world is quite often very cruel. And by them being able to engage in that in a healthy way, in a video they can stop at any moment, well, they're able to cry. Something that a lot of us would have liked to be able to do when we were in our darker times. After all, crying is a form of stress relief, and it can help you process the things that you're going through. And for others, crying is just an emotional release. And afterwards, they go enjoy the sweet little things in life even more. There's a reason people can thank you for making misery. It's because, hey, life's just a little miserable, and being able to healthily engage in that is really important. And even more so, it can help them process information of other terrible things that have happened to them. And that's important to keep in mind for, well, us going into the very dark territory. Due to YouTube, I'll be more keeping this section and the example towards a cheating partner. However, even something not necessarily as dark as other tags, a cheating partner thing can be really dark, especially if you know what you're doing and actually do dive into like the person being toxic instead of it being, romanticized, coming back to. When you have somebody who's in a dark place. A lot of us can probably relate to going to darker content because the mind likes hurting itself a lot. And, well, since a lot of us probably did something similar, we can understand other people who watch our content doing the same. And if you do a well enough job on that toxic X, for instance, maybe there can be certain realizations that they didn't, well, as a viewer, think of before. An easy example can be that maybe they realize that their cheating ex was always toxic because the other behavior that they're in that script is toxic. It is bad. And even before their partner cheated, they did something similar. And, well, you can also, for instance, help somebody going through a darker time actually conceptualize that, oh, what happened to me was wrong. And that's a pretty big first step. Another really important thing is your community. By you building up your area, especially on those who post on Reddit or, for instance, Soundgasm, you give over a tag that describes everything. A short little description that people can read to not get accidentally triggered. And putting in that extra effort means that it's less likely people are going to get hurt, but by also emphasizing that those behaviors are toxic, that they are bad, you cultivate an audience that does recognize that doesn't just worship the bad behavior. And by doing so, well, if somebody that is brave enough comes over and says a sweet little comment saying that, hey, this audio helped me realize that my partner was always toxic, that I didn't deserve somebody that bad for me, so thank you. You're likely to have other people inside that same comment section praising the person that's making that post. And you do 2 big steps for the person right then and there. The first step, understanding that things were wrong. And secondly, having people tell them what happened was wrong. After all, that's a really, I keep saying it, but it's really important to more recognize that other people also know what happened to you is not all right. And based on the community you build, you're able to tell people that. And those sweet little stories are able to happen in even your darker content. But I also understand and empathize that constantly making dark content can hurt. After all, most of us have to dig into a very darker part of our soul to make content like that. So my advice, if it ever feels a bit too much, look over your previous catalog of ideas. I'm pretty sure most of us will, by the time we reach near our limit, write a few tragedies or something. And by that point, ask yourself how one of your tragedies could have been a victory. What would have to change for that story to be a happy ending? And if you want to, and you're at your wit's end of just making dark stuff, or you want to prove to yourself that you can make something sweet and it also being, nice or adored, well, go over and make one of your tragedies into a happy ending. That's my personal advice. It can feel very freeing to more undo a bad situation. Of course, you can over and put limits to say, like, this is a false ending or whatever, but that's completely up to you. With that out of the way, on hopefully going over about darker content and a little bit of advice about how to, take a bit of a break, it starts being a little bit too much. I want to talk about people who feel like they're making basic content. We all generally know the sort. The for everyone stories. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with making stories like this. I always find people who try and hound stuff like that kind of super awkward and weird. It's like hounding a female for female only creator to make female for male stuff. Really awkward and weird. Don't stop being cringe if you're one of those people. But I can understand. We've already talked a few times about this, but identity being an issue here. And I'll reinstate one more time, your voice is unique. Whether it's your actual voice, the way that you write scripts, or anything of the sort, the way you create that content is going to fundamentally be different than everyone else creating that content. So even if you're writing off of a basic formula, as long as you're the one creating it, there will be differences, even if they're subtle, and those differences matter. There's two larger issues that people who make a lot of quote unquote basic content have to deal with. The first one is feeling like they have to step out of that box. And I'm just going to plainly say, there's a reason that those are classics. If you feel like you have to step out of that box, not because that you want to, but because, well, everyone graduates from this type of content eventually, then no, fuck off. If you want to make content like that, that's fine. And it should be celebrated. There's a reason that these type of tags formulas are classics. It's because people love them. Whether it's comfort stuff, weirdly enough, because like the main one I think of on the basic stuff is like, the bully being actually a tsundere or something of the sort, which is like, I still find that a little weird whenever I find it. And some of them are a little odd, but all of them that I found so far are super well made. And putting your passion, your love for creating content into something like that is no less valuable than creating something a little bit more off the walls or a little bit different. You're still making content, and as long as you feel fulfilled making that type of content, anyone who tells you you have to make something different is quite strictly wrong. We always make content to feed our inner creator, as I would call it. And if your inner creator wants to make something that's similar to that type of formula, maybe you want to, add in your own little twists, or maybe you just want to make comfort stuff for people and something that's, you know, pretty, you know, normal. I don't get why somebody would try and criticize you for that. And if they do, again, they're just wrong and stupid and cringe. On the other side of that coin, there are a lot of people which feel that they can't step out of that box when they put themselves there. After all, this is what is popular. This is what I'm making all the time. If I change out of it, then nobody will really like it, right? And I won't lie, if you step out of a niche, there are going to be less people who view your content. But your content is going to still be, as we've stated multiple times in this little audio, different. The way you make the exact same script, the way that you voice the exact same script is going to have a few minute differences. And people will keep coming back to your renditions of scripts because you made it different. This is more of a thing that I see with voice actors and script writers. Because script writers, again, because they're unappreciated, go kind of super bombastic from what I more see, and don't expect their work to more be popular, unfortunately. But voice actors can very much more feel restricted, caught by, well, chained by these type of formulas. And, well, your voice is already different. Maybe spend some time figuring out what you enjoy making, what you like making as your own core identity. What scripts are your favorite? Which are your most popular? And maybe you can find something there that fits what you want to make and what your audience wants to see. After all, maybe they like lots of bullying scripts, but you want to make something sweeter. So, why don't you make a series or something of the sort where it does start as a bully to eventually lover that is more of a tsundere? Something like that would probably still capture a lot of people, and slowly but certainly, you can find your own niche. You will still lose viewers, but you'll have a core audience. And that's pretty important. And most of all, you would have found your own voice. You shouldn't feel restricted by a formula to restrict your voice, in the same way that you shouldn't feel that your voice can't be part of that formula. So, for those who make quote unquote basic things, I hope that advice is helpful. Now, lastly, I'm going to be more talking about people who make very niche things. So, if you want to skip towards past all this, thank you for listening past to this area. I hope that the advice that I've given, even if it is very reductive generally, and repeated a lot because, the same issues just keep on propping up, I do hope it's helpful and maybe clearing a few heads. And thank you, sirs, madams, and my non-identifiable pals for listening this far. For those who want to hear my own personal thoughts on, the area that I personally find my own content, where I'm going to be talking a lot more about personal advice as me as a creator, hello and welcome. So, the problems I fundamentally understand from people who make niche content. There's twofold. One, always feeling like you're reading, things connected to your own voice. And that's a big deal because, especially at first, you're learning the limits of what you're comfortable making and what you're not. My own advice? I would heavily suggest testing your boundaries now and then. The easiest way that I can more give an idea, as I more talked about, I hope, in this recording, it's not the last one, I hope, the video that Rhea responded to was actually my first 18 plus audio. And that's one of the reasons why I was dying so bad. Somebody who actually does know how to make non-safe for work audios, seeing my first attempt at making it. And from that audio, however, I made that as a subscriber special. It was to celebrate me, hitting a milestone. During that process, I figured that I wanted to test myself as a creative. And that's the reason why it became not only something that was fully lewd, though, not full lewd, because I learned while I was creating that I couldn't make something full lewd. That just isn't inside my wheelhouse. It can only be something lewd teasing. I felt uncomfortable trying to force myself to make something like super explicit. It had to be all implicit. And by doing so, just there I learned one of my limitations, but I learned a second one as well, because it was fully scripted. That one recording didn't have a living script, as I'm used to working on, but a full-on script. And from that, I learned another limitation of mine. When I have a full script ready for me to use, I'm not able to make my best work because I focus way too much on getting the script perfectly right instead of making the audio right. I have a different screen where I have the entire script written out, on my laptop as I record on my phone. And I focus way too hard on reading the lines properly. And due to that, whenever I mess up by reading the lines, that detrimentally affects the audio. I learned then and there that I work a lot better using living scripts. Maybe writing down the base ideas, running through it once or twice, but not something with a full-on script. Luckily for me, I create my own living scripts, so I don't need to worry about the consequences of that too much. But by me pushing my limits and making audio I normally wouldn't, I learned two great limitations on how I am. In the same vein, I learned that I could make things that were apparently quite appreciably horny. So if I ever wanted to make something horny again, which, I'll probably put that on the back burner, I am well and able to do so. And by refining what I can and can't do, I learn more about my own voice. I heavily suggest people who want to make their own unique content, to try, at the very least, to make something that seems on the surface as something as the inverse. And if you can't fully do it without it feeling super uncomfortable, then you learn your limit. If it's something that you can kind of push, but you have to twist it a little bit, you learn more limits there too. And by doing so, you further refine your own voice. And the second part is the fact that it is your own voice. And due to the fact it's your own voice, it's by necessity going to be a lot more niche. While we more talked about how the broad appeal on the basics and how that can feel very scary stepping out of them, that's still the same when you have your own little niche. Whether it's something small, like, you know, a silly audio about a chipmunk girl who's going to steal all your food, and you like making silly things like that, well, that is still a niche. For me, for instance, writing a lot of things which are weird and not heavily connected to one another. Hell, one of my favorite scripts that I've written, quote unquote written, created, were reverse yandere one, which was like the entire premise there was to have the speaker more caught the yandere listener in, getting the rope ready to kidnap them because they came early. And due to that, unintentionally, because they think it's going to be kidnapping somebody else, talking them down from kidnapping them and entering a normal relationship. And I am very proud of that work, about the foreshadowing and everything else I did in it. But God, that is like a very hard niche, right? A yandere listener audio that also is like, not dark. Huh. That's a pretty like hard niche, right? It's also one of my best performing videos because the people who watch me, even if it's a very small amount of people, like silly content like that. And that's the strength of having a niche. By having that niche, even though your community is by necessity going to be a lot smaller, especially due to the fact that people are discovering you, and that's going to be a real pain in the butt. Took me like a year-ish, or like, no, not a full year, but like close to it before I got my first comment, and toughing it out until that point was the entire reason I stopped making audios for a while, because I wasn't getting any recognition. If I hadn't gotten that comment, I wouldn't still be making creations now. And I can understand the pain and loneliness that more comes from that. You're putting your work out there, but nobody's able to see it, especially since you're not touching on the normal tags. But people will reliably come back when they have seen your content and like it. For one simple reason, because your niche is fundamentally you, nobody else is really going to make an audio as I just described. Or another one at the start of the series that kind of hooked two of the people which more regularly watch my videos, which was Crazy Patient Tries to Break Your Straightness as the title, but the actual audio still has the person sounding completely unhinged but still like kind of nice and sweet. Something like that is something uniquely I can make. And do that, the people who catch on to my content keep coming back. So my advice towards those who find your own little niche or who want to go over and make just a specific type of content, when you find your audience that comes towards your niche, your own little voice, even if it's not necessarily the most popular, they're going to keep coming back because nobody can make something exactly like you. That doesn't mean just tough it out or anything like that. If you feel that's starting to get to you, make something basic. Something that's still in your voice, but more broadly approachable. After all, as we've already gone over so many times, even something basic can be very different on your own voice. Anyway, I think that's all I'm going to be talking about. I've kind of thrown my throat out. I've been talking for like an hour and 40 minutes based on the other recording. So I hope that this was enjoyable as a type of call out. God, I hate the fact this video is going to be like so goddamn long because I'm going to have to like send it towards a few idiots such as Rhea herself. But I hope the video is enjoyable as a type of thing. And, well, please check out Rhea and Faye. They gave me permission towards using their, you know, little things here. So I'd highly appreciate if anyone who does watch this video goes gives them a try. While Faye is completely sapphic, no, not Faye. God, you can tell that my brain is starting to go a little bit. I'm gonna keep that in the audio because, like, I also want to prove people which have, like, you voice actors and other people that, yeah, you can make mistakes and stuff. But, while Rhea, makes completely sapphic content, Faye does not. She makes both sides of the aisle and female for anyone, content from what I can more see. Uh, Most of it, again, is horny as shit, so I haven't directly checked it out, but again, she has a lovely voice. So please, go over and look at both of them. Oh, and also, if, Rhea is still listening to this point, you goddamn fucking stupid sapphic bitch, I'd go over and carry through my promises. That's what they are, not threats. Also, like, if you watch this far in the video, go and, like, randomly fucking praise the woman or something. Like, let's get this girl to, like, not be a fucking brat accepting praise. That'd be nice. That'd be nice. Anywho, my throat is completely done now. So, doodles, I hope you girls enjoyed. Eh, Girls, guys, and non-binary pals. I am way too used to saying girls. Anywho, bye bye.